I discovered the interview in 2019. My plan was to make a long form feature film about Maria. And so I was doing archival research and I found the interview at INA, INA. And so that's when I first found it. Yeah. So in my background, I've made other films that use reenactment and recreation a lot. And I've only made one film that's like a shot by shot, very precise reenactment. In the past, I've done parts of reenactments, but 20 years ago, I made a very precise reenactment. And the film footage for that film was also historical and was also about a young woman being interviewed. And I had the same feeling in my heart that I had when I saw this other interview. My thought was, on the surface, this does not seem very interesting. It seems very simple. But the more I watched it, there was something that told me there was more going on, that there were lots of layers of meaning below the surface. I think, yes, that's one part. I think also I was interested in how a voice changes over history, so that words she said in 1983 have a different resonance in 2003 or 2013 or 2023, and how both things change and things stay the same. And I'm interested in how you tell stories about people, and how you tell the history of someone, and how different perspectives shift, not just because of time period, but audience and the age of someone. You know, what did Maria think when she was, how would she change too? That is the complete interview. The whole interview is only 7 minutes. I think because the more I watch the interview, so there's 5 shots, each shot kind of tells a story, and from the first question to the last question, the interviewer is getting more and more aggressive about trying to get Maria to speak about something she didn't want to. And so I felt like the experience of the interview in some ways was a metaphor for the experience of non-consent. You know, the focus of the interview is on being famous and being in Hollywood, and she says, film is not my life. I don't live for cinema. But the interviewer doesn't say, well, tell me about other parts of your life. What is your life? She doesn't care about anything about Maria except that she's an actress who was in Last Tango in Paris. And that seems similar to the kind of the lack of interest, the lack of respect in general of women is complete human beings with lots of experiences, lots of perspectives. It feels like it diminished her humanity. I chose the actresses in different ways. 𝑀𝑎𝑟𝑖𝑎, I knew I wanted her to be in the film. She has been she's such a brilliant actor, and she's been such a powerful voice in French cinema, in contemporary French cinema, around issues of racism and sexism in the film industry. And I was living in Paris right before the pandemic when she gave a speech at the Césars in 2020 and criticized the French film industry. So I had that in my mind, and I knew she had to be in the film. And I knew that I wanted the first actress to do a really perfect reenactment of the film, like very, very, very precise, like every eye moving, every gesture, every breath to be like a perfect simulation. And I also wanted her to look precisely like Maria. So we started looking, and we heard about Manal, and I watched her films, and I did some research on her, and I discovered that she was also an activist. And so she's been protesting for Palestinians for a long time, and that was important. And what was interesting about casting Manal is that Manal didn't go to, didn't study acting. She works very instinctively. I think I was worried, like, would she be able to do the role so perfectly? But she's also, before she started acting, she studied robotics and engineering, and she actually is very, very precise. And so she was able to do it both with a lot of precision, but also a lot of emotion, because she said, I'm going to learn everything she does, but then I have to learn why she did everything. And then for Isabel, I knew I wanted it to be in English because so much of Maria's experience as an actor was speaking in translation. And so I wanted us to be really thinking about the idea of translation. That's why the subtitles have different fonts. Isabel's translation is less good. It's more like Google Translate in the subtitles. So I knew I wanted her to speak English. I knew I wanted her to be transgender. And then I knew I wanted her to be a brilliant actor. So that was a long answer. Your question about what did I expect? With Manal, I knew she would be good. I had no idea she would be so good. Like, she's brilliant. With Aisa and Isabel, I also knew they would be very, very good. My question to each of them with the script was, what are the fewest words you need to change in the script from 1983 to make it true to your experience today in 2022? And so what I was surprised by is they didn't change very many words. They said, I completely relate to her experience, to the point that when we were on the set, they said, like, I feel like Maria is in me right now, like that I'm doing this for Maria, like a kind of channeling of her experience. That I knew the film was dependent on really, really good acting, because it's just a close-up. The whole film is just one shot.
Why did you choose to change the child's stream of Maria, the super character, from painter to actress and director?
Isabel, the last actress, Isabel is a very famous director. In fact, that's really mostly what she does. She only acts in her own films. So this was unusual for her to act in my film. And so when I asked her what did she want to change, she said that uh, that's what she wanted as a child, to be an actor and then to be a director. And I thought that was beautiful, because so many actresses now, because I think they are frustrated with representation and being on one side of the camera, there's a lot of very interesting actresses that are becoming directors. And I was imagining there, there's something about the having that much agency and that power to say, I'm turning the camera away from me and I'm going to tell my own story, that I thought was a beautiful way to end the film too, is this kind of a woman taking the camera out of the hands of Bertolucci, um, and saying, I'm directing myself. Well, especially as an English-speaking person who loves French cinema and is not fluent in French, I watch a lot of films with subtitles. But as I was learning French and getting a little better at French, I could start seeing the problems between what the French-speaking actors were saying and the subtitles, the English subtitles that we're given. And to me, being an actor is translation too. You take words on a script, you interpret them in your body, and then you present them with your performance and your words. So I think translation is a really beautiful and important part of cinema. And, because we don't need subtitles in a French audience for the first two, but I wanted the audience always to be thinking about subtitles and to think about, oh, there are different ways to see a story. I think she leaves the set, it's suggesting my whole life is not here. I don't need to be here if I don't want to be, and I'm going to live. And that's why when you hear the credits after she walks out the door, you hear the city, hear churches, you hear children playing, you hear the metro, and then you hear her voice in a film she loved. Which is why I always try to tell people remember to watch the whole film, because the sound collage is kind of a continuation of the story. I really believe that part of what you can do in cinema is make the audience engage with the film as it's happening, and the fact that you are asking questions like, what is real? I would never make a film where someone needed to know something first. But the beginning of the film says who she is, that she was an actress who was cast in this film, and that's all you need to know. So the whole film, I think, is asking you to be in a position as a viewer of, is this real, is this not real? I just think that's a good place to be in general when you're watching art, is questioning reality. All of my research about Maria was for a feature film, for a feature biopic. But then the pandemic happened, and I decided to make this short art film. My plan is to go back and finish my research for a feature film about Maria. So many things that I was thinking about and wanting to talk about around representation and her experience in Last Tango, those things are finished. Like, now I'm done. The feature film, much more about, more like a documentary about her whole life. And there will still be fictional parts, but I'm interested in involving her family and her friends and people that I've interviewed. I've never done that before. I tend to like to do things I don't know how to do.